Hello and welcome. My name is Justin. Thank you for joining me here at my table today. And this is going to be the first video in a new series that I'm going to be doing called Mastering Monsters. I'm still relatively new as a DM, been doing it for a few years, and I still haven't used quite as many of the creatures in a lot of the base core rulebooks that I would like to get a better understanding of. So that's what this series is going to be about. I'm going to be picking from random from the core rulebooks, as well as some of the books that I have bought personally. And I've created a rollable system that I will be using to determine the types of encounters and difficulty, and just going through each of these videos and creating an encounter around these randomly rolled creatures. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start with our first one. So for our first one here today, I've rolled the Satyr Revelmaster. Now, the Revelmaster, it's a type of satyr, so they're from the Feywilds, and they thrive on the happy, party, fun, and relaxing atmosphere of the forests. And the Revelmasters themselves are specifically, they protect and serve that party. They use their musical abilities to both keep the creatures and the beings within this party setting happy, as well as to deter those would-be party crashers, if you would. So I'm going to go ahead and roll for the encounter, which I've created an encounter system of 6 different encounter types. In this case, we're going to have an escape/chase. That's going to be interesting. And then the level of difficulty, I just rolled a d20 to determine it on the table that I've created, and I rolled a 6. Okay, so this will be relatively low. 6 is a medium to low, so that's going to leave it to the 1 enemy type, and there's going to be no difficult terrain, and there's not going to be any traps, any notable traps at least. So this is going to be a rather simple one. Turning this into an escape, though, would be interesting. Let's see. So the Satyr Revelmaster thrives in a forested party setting. What if our players are currently traveling through the Feywilds for some particular reason? This is going to be maybe an encounter in between traveling between cities, maybe. This could be one of those random encounters that they come across just randomly traveling through the forests. And maybe they come across the sounds of the music through the forest. If the players decide to interact with this in some way, let's say, let's say the satyrs have a large group of animals that are at this party, different types of animals, and have assigned some of them to watch the area. Okay. So we have it set up so that they're having one of their typical satyr parties in the forest, and amongst the creatures, the fae and animal creatures that they have in this celebration, they've set some of them up as guards for this party, watchmen to keep an eye out for any would-be evildoers who might come across this party setting, and they would act as sort of a warning system. What would be a good creature to act as a warning system? Something ape-like. And say the party members decide to come up to this party setting. Maybe they're invited in with opening and welcome arms, right? Say they're offered a drink. Ooh, that would be interesting. Maybe the satyrs are drinking some type of fey alcohol of some kind that they've made. Maybe it's infused with some kind of magic. So this would be our first check, right? So say they take a drink of this, and this alcohol is made of some type of course, fermented fey fruit, but maybe the fermentation process of this fruit has created some kind of poison that doesn't quite act well with those not of the Feywilds. those specifically who aren't satyrs, who have magical resistance. Ooh, maybe this alcohol has a natural magical infusion that was simply brought up to prominence through the fermentation process, which also means that should the players drink it, it wouldn't be a Constitution saving throw because it wouldn't necessarily be against their ability to handle a poison. Maybe this would be something along the lines of a wisdom saving throw. And should they fail, we'll call it a wisdom save. It's a pretty low level encounter, so the DC would have to match that low level. We'll say with a DC of 8. Why not? This magical infusion is not super potent, but it's potent enough that if say somebody does fail, well, it is supposed to be an escape. Let's make the DC a little higher. Maybe 10. Just kind of add a little bit of difficulty to it. Because what this would do is it's supposed to be an escape. So this effect is going to need to be something that prevents their escape. This could be the first possibility of somebody being trapped in here, in this party. We'll say that it's a... Would it be paralysis? No, maybe? I like the idea of... Sure, we'll go with paralysis. At this point, they would need to basically get the party members away from this party. Maybe they would become paralyzed by the magic infusion. And what if they become paralyzed and poisoned? Because it's a pretty low save. It's a pretty low save DC. If anybody should fail, then it would be pretty decent consequences, and they would need to have some type of reason for feeling pressure in this situation. So for that, maybe they could start taking damage. So we have those affected will need to succeed a DC 10 wisdom saving throw. So in other words, the same save that they made when they first took the drink, every 6 seconds or at the beginning of each turn. This being because, say they go into combat, that would mean that it would be every turn that they get in each round of combat, they would need to succeed this check. Taking 1d4 poison on poison damage on a failure. So they show up to this party and are offered drinks, and any who accept these drinks have to succeed a DC 10 wisdom saving throw, or they would become paralyzed and poisoned by the magic infused into this drink. Those affected will also need to continue to make that save every 6 seconds or at the beginning of each turn, or take 1d4 poison damage on a failure. If they succeed, they lose the paralyzed and poisoned conditions. So this makes it so that the players who are subjected to this effect will essentially... Their lives will be put in danger, but not incredible danger. And the players who are left will have to deal with the Revelmasters however they feel is necessary. Should they enter combat, they would have to fight against the Revelmaster. Should the players enter combat with the Revelmaster, all the creatures in the nearby area would vacate the area on the orders of the Revelmaster itself, so that it can continue to fulfill its duty protecting the animals of the wilds and the animals of the Fae, as well as beginning the process of defending itself against the players. So we need to make it so that maybe the players can acknowledge and recognize that it wasn't the Revelmaster who was responsible for this. For that to work, they would need to be able to understand nature and maybe the Feywilds a little bit, which would mean that a nature check would be necessary for this, in my opinion. So I'm going to say that they need to succeed a nature check. As the encounter would go on, the Revelmaster would insist that it was not responsible, because in reality it wasn't. It didn't necessarily know that the players wouldn't be able to ingest this this drink. To him, or to the Revelmaster itself, they believe that this drink is it's just their alcoholic beverages that they drink in the Feywilds. Their bodies have grown to be immune to this kind of poisoning. And also because the Revelmaster itself is resistant to magic, it's able to drink this and be resistant to the natural magic in the drink. And so any player who would succeed a DC, we'll keep it at a 10. Just keep the level consistent across, because that's pretty easy to beat, but also has the occasional occurrence of course, not being able to be met. Players with a higher intelligence stat would definitely have a better chance of succeeding this check as well. So a player who succeeds a DC 10 nature check will realize that the effects of the drink would be something that would could come naturally from the plants and things like that in the Feywilds. And I like this encounter. I like what I've made so far here. I've never thought of the Satyr Revelmaster. I didn't actually know that it existed until now, and so it's interesting to read up on it. It's a pretty short description, pretty much just saying that it enjoys forest parties and does its best to not only keep the party going as the musical interest within it, the entertainment, but also uses its magic to protect the party itself. Also to maybe lure in those creatures that might benefit from such a fun experience. I like the idea of it being lighthearted, but I also like the idea of the Revelmaster not only being able to protect themselves, but also giving an opportunity for them to for the players to be able to understand the situation a little bit better as well. Of course, there's all kinds of player options that they could make in an encounter like this, but I feel like we've given them an into the situation. We've given them a reason to feel danger in the situation. We've also given them an ability to understand the situation as well as get themselves out of it. The players can decide for themselves how to go about dealing with the poison. For as long as the downed players are making their saves. So this has been the first episode, video that I will be doing in this Mastering Monsters video series. If you liked it, please leave a like below, leave a comment, let me know what you think about it. If you have any other interesting ideas of what you could do with the Satyr Revelmaster, I would be very interested to read your ideas. I love finding out some new ways of using these creatures and incorporating them into interesting encounters and stories for the players to move through. Also, tell me how you would go about dealing with this encounter as a player. Maybe if you have a character that you're playing right now, give me an idea of how your character would go about dealing with this encounter. But anyways, that is all from me for today for this video. Like I said, if you liked it, please leave a like, and I will be seeing you in the next video. I guess I just mimicked Mark. Hope you all have a wonderful day.